Good morning, Jackie Albert. Good morning, Robert. You guys, you're early birds with me. I love it. You know, it's interesting. 7:30 in the winter seems like it's so much earlier than 7:30 in the summertime. Good morning, Loretta. You guys, I'm excited. Here's cheers. Coffee chat cheers. All right. Well, I'm going to start chatting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Bobby. Good morning, Joy. Wherever you are in the world, whenever you're watching this, hello. Cindy, how the heck are you? Oh, I'm so glad you're live. Wow. Well, hello for those of you who have never met me before that might be watching this in the future. My name is Catherine Oster, and this is this week's edition of Coffee Chat. And Coffee Chat is all about me chatting about things that come up in my life and how I'm using these super easy, weird, wacky tools of access consciousness to navigate different situations and events and create. Okay. Oh, and if you guys, I also want to say, like, Coffee Chat isn't just about me, but usually that's what I chat about. But you guys can also ask me questions. So if any of you that are watching live have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and type them in. And for your information, I usually send out an email. Oh, I forgot to check my email this morning. So if somebody sent me in a question, I didn't see it yet. I usually send out an email letting people know Coffee Chat's happening, and you can reply to that email and ask me questions, or catch me comment in one of the Facebook groups, which if somebody did send in a question, I apologize because I did not check my email this morning. Anyway, good morning, Shannon. All right, well, Coffee Chat, I titled this week's Coffee Chat, an unexpected side effect of homeschooling. So this is interesting. So my husband and I, we decided to take a different route with our kids this year with regards to school and all the COVID stuff that's going on. Our kids didn't want to wear a mask at school, and I honestly don't blame them. So with our lifestyle, like how our life is set up now, my husband and I, we have the ability to do distance learning with our kids. I work at the Paradise Ranch in Western Wear on Fridays. Other than that, I teach riding lessons, I do some horse training, I facilitate classes. Good morning, Cheryl. So that allows me to have a flexible schedule and have the kids at home. So an unexpected side effect. A friend was over, we were trading bars a couple weeks ago, and she had commented to me, she was like, wow, Catherine, have you noticed that Trace and Helena, my two kids, Trace is our son, Helena is our daughter, have you noticed it seems like Trace and Helena are getting along way better than they did before? And I waited, I was like, what? And then I was like, oh my God, they are. That is so true. That was really interesting. And I didn't actually really notice it or acknowledge it until she pointed it out. And not that they were bad kids before, or they didn't fight like a ton, but they did. And now, as soon as she said that, I started kind of looking back and noticing. And before their relationship, they did irritate each other a lot. You know, brother is 11, sister is 8. And that's just siblings, right? And so they would have their little irritations with each other, and they would kind of pick at each other and get annoyed with each other and whatever. And that was kind of normal before, you know. And so I had just learned to be with that and whatever. When they would get too rowdy, I'd be like, okay, I don't care if you fight, but you take it outside or you go down to the basement. Like, just, I don't want to see it kind of thing. And not telling them that they couldn't, but giving them another choice, something that works for me. Anyway, they actually haven't been, I would say it's been the last couple of months, really since we started the distance learning program at school, they get along way better. Like they're like friends, and they actually enjoy each other's company, which I honestly had no idea that that would be a side effect of homeschooling. And I'm sure now this is probably isn't true for everybody. Every family dynamic, all the kids are different, but it is true for Trace and Helena. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I'm like, I actually haven't given them shit for fighting for a little while now. Like, you're right. They do get along way better. So that was one thing I noticed. Another thing I noticed is it's also really inviting me to begin to create cash again and money in a different way. Before, I would usually keep like 1 or 2 client horses for training. And so that would generate a revenue of about $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Now, with having the kids home and me requiring to be a little more involved with them at the house with their school. Now, I'm not like, it was more before, not so much now, but I still require to be a little bit more. It wasn't really working. I was having one client horse. I had one client horse like September and October, and I felt like it just wasn't working. It just didn't fit. I was out with my own horses and then my client horse at the barn until like almost noon, which was fine when it was just me at home and the kids were in school, but that wasn't quite like at that hour and a half. I required to be someplace different at the house with the kids, helping them, because then I would get back and there's other things that need to be handled and then I have to help them to school, and it felt like it was getting to be overwhelming. So that client horse, he's good. He went home the beginning of November. And so I'm like, and there wasn't another horse that booked in. Now, normally when horses don't book in, it's just because they just aren't required or something different is anyway showing up. And I'm like, I'm just going to let myself be for this month, not book a client horse, see how that flows with my life now. And then I'm going to start asking questions and looking at generating money in another way that's a little more easier for me. So it's inviting me to stay in the question and get creative. And you know what? To be honest, with winter coming, my body probably isn't wanting maybe to be outside so much working with the horses. And I actually do have a client horse booked, but that client horse isn't coming until like May, which works. And that's really light. And so, okay. Also, adding the cows in our life. Calving time gets busy, like the yard is different. I don't have as much space to keep another horse or more horses with ease. Anyway, so it's all just kind of flowing, but it's inviting me to choose something different, basically. It's interesting, on the topic of client horses, there was a few winters ago where February was like the freaking coldest month ever. It was like -40 to -45 for the whole month of February. And when I was booking client horses that year in the fall, I kept trying to put a horse in February and it just wasn't jiving. Like something came up with the owner, the horse couldn't come, blah, blah, blah. So February ended up staying open. And what ended up happening is February was so cold, I wouldn't have been able to do anything with the horse anyway. My indoor arena is not heated. The barn is, so those temperatures still don't work for horses in training at that weather. And what else showed up was one of the ladies at the store, she ended up going down south for the whole month in Arizona. So I just picked up more work days at the store for the month of February. It was interesting how if you're willing to not, and I could have went into anxiety. Even right now, I could be like, oh my God, I don't have any training horses, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Ask a question. What else is possible? Okay, so that's another thing. Another thing is I actually didn't really realize, not that my kids weren't happy when they were in school, but they're just a lot lighter now is the word that I'm going to use. I did notice, like looking back, when they would come home from school, they would often be Hey, good morning, Mom. Hi, Cindy. They would often be like, well, they'd be tired for sure. I think from engaging with kids all day and teachers and the environment, they were tired. They were a little more depressed, which I didn't really notice at the time, but I notice it now that they're different. And they just kind of seemed like Helena seemed like she was like she's a very sensitive, so is Trace, but Helena is still really she's so sensitive and she gets herself like worked up internally. And so she would be really hard on herself with different things that weren't even hers, actually. And that's not going on this year. And in fact, when she would go to school, she would always get eczema on her hands, like always, every year. It would never fail. By the middle of October, her hands would be really dry and starting to be cracked. And so we were always making sure she had lotions and stuff. And every time I would ask the question, is this hers? I would always get a no. And it would always go away for the summer months when she was home. And it would come back when she would go to school. She doesn't have that. I could have said it was the weather, it was whatever. I can't tell you exactly what it is. Maybe it was because she was washing, and there's chlorine in the water. Maybe it's that. Whatever it is, it's not showing up this year. Her hands are totally fine. And psychologically, like her emotional state, she's so much lighter. Both of them are actually. And so that was another interesting thing I noticed since we started this. And oh yeah, the other thing, they're actually learning how to choose things, like Trace and Helena. They're learning how to choose things. So how I've got it set up is I look in the program and I'm like, okay, we're really focusing on math, ELA, science, and social right now. And I would really like what would it take for us to be done school by the end of April, middle of May, which is a really cool thing that I like. You can structure the things and work through at your pace. You can go a little bit faster if things are going well. And then we can be done for seeding and summer, and Trace wants to pick rocks this year, so he'll have the time to do that, etc. Anyway, so at the beginning of the week, I'm like, okay, kids, we're getting done these lessons in this subject, these lessons in this subject, these lessons in this subject, and I write it down on a paper with their name on it. And then now that we're into the jive, they're learning how to do their own work. So in the morning, I go out, do chores. I'm back in by like 10:30, 11. They would have already started, and I'm like, okay, how's it going? Do you have any questions? Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And Trace will be like, hey, Mom, this afternoon I want to go and help Dad put up the electric fence for the cows, or Dad and I are going to go bait our deer stand. And I'm like, okay, you can do whatever you like as long as these lessons get done, by the end of the week. So you have this amount of time. And he's like, okay. And then, so I'm giving him, like, he's learning how to be responsible and get his work done, because he does want to do free time with his dad, and he does want to do cow stuff, and he wants to go deer hunting, etc. And so he's working in the morning, getting his work done, and then he has the rest of the day to do all that other stuff. So they're learning how, like, already. And I'm like, this is actually a really great life skill for them. So yes. And we are, like, they're still engaging. We've got a sleepover play date set up for Trace and his friend tonight. Helena's still doing gymnastics. We've got some stuff set up with her friends. So I'm still making sure that they're still engaging also with their peers in just a different way. It's really interesting, you guys. Now, in the beginning, probably we started having way more ease with this new way of being and living with the kids probably the last 2 to 3 weeks. Before that, I did struggle. Like, I'm not going to lie, it was not really an easy choice. Well, the easy choice is to send them away to school every single day, and then I don't have to think about them or be present with them or be aware of them. Hey, Andrea. Yeah, Cindy. I know. How does it get better? Anyway, that was the easy choice. And I was a mom before who loved so much of my free time, and I felt like it was just, I really liked them being at school, and I liked being at home alone for the day. So this choice to do distance learning with them, I knew it was so light. It was going to create a greater future. Yes. Now, if you watch the last coffee chat I talked about, what's going to create greater is not necessarily easy. And that was also this. It was really overwhelming in the beginning. I didn't know how to be. My whole day was kind of thrown up in the air, and I felt like I was scattered, and I'm like, oh my God, I just want to send them back to school. Every so often that would come up, and I'm like, okay. When those feelings would start to come up for me, I'm like, okay, Catherine, stop it. And I'm like, would keep asking the question. Truth. What will our life be like in 5 years if we do distance learning with the kids? So light. Okay. And then I would relax. I would try my best to relax, which in the beginning was not easy, but now it's getting way easier. And I'm like, okay, what else can I choose here? What's required? Ease, joy, and glory. Again, ease, joy, and glory does not mean that it's going to be easy, but it does mean you can handle everything with ease, joy, and glory if you're asking for it. So, again, I also got out of the judgment of myself, which has taken me a lot of years. It doesn't just happen like that overnight. It's taken me a lot of years, and it's happening faster and faster now all the time. When I'm not judging myself, I have the ability to be different. Before I probably would have judged myself as a bad mom for having these feelings and being frustrated. And it's like, no, okay. And just the continuous choice, it's like building a new muscle, right? So it's not easy in the beginning. It's hard. But the more we chose it, the more I knew we would get into a rhythm. I knew there'd be more space. And so, yeah, it took about 5 or 6 weeks, but it has happened, and it is getting way easier now. And now I'm starting to notice like all of these amazing things that are already coming out of this choice that I actually did not expect or consider. And how does it get better than that? So yeah. All these unexpected side effects of homeschooling with Trace and Helena. And again, all of these tools, the ability to choose, the ability to have ease, joy, and glory when the hard stuff comes up, when it gets uncomfortable. All these tools I learned in foundation. And getting your bars ran. That's another really important thing you could do to have ease with different choices and actually being alive in the world right now. Yes, Cindy, the more we stop making ourselves wrong, that's when the magic happens. So if you're ready to make new choices, maybe have a little more ease in your life, I highly recommend you get your butt to foundation. And for those of you that are close to me or in the area, I do have a foundation coming up December 11th to the 14th at my place. I live near St. Walburg. There is local accommodations if you're traveling and you want to come to the class. Let me know. Plus, there's still online foundation classes happening around the world. You can go to accessconsciousness.com and find that and start to be empowered with creating your life in ways that are beyond what you could ever imagine possible. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for showing up live with me this morning. I'm grateful. Coffee cheers. And I'll see some of you live right away in the Daily Dose. And I wonder where I will see some of you later. Have an amazing rest of your day, wherever you are, whatever you're up to. Bye-bye for now. Carmen, you're going to have to catch the replay. I'm just finishing up. Thank you for the hearts, you guys. Thank you, Shauna. Bye-bye.